Hallelujah. We give praise to Yah. As once again, it's another beautiful Shabbat day. We want to thank everybody for joining Restoring the Branches ministry. As always, peace and shalom to the 12 tribes of Israel that are scattered abroad. As we always say, to the Yahudim first, then to the nations, just as it is recorded in the epistles. To all the people who have aligned themselves with Christ, to all the people who have given their life over to Jesus Christ or to Yeshua HaMashiach. Welcome to you, and we are here to elaborate the covenant that you have joined yourself to. And as things are winding down, time is winding down, Yah is expecting all the people to have a clear understanding of what you've associated yourself with. So this is a time where the truth shines and the darkness and lies, they fade into the back. So the truth of the Almighty is shining. The purpose of Christ, the purpose of the gospel is coming out, and it's up to the people who have a heart, who have a true heart, and want to walk after Him and follow Him. This is the time. This is the time to jump on the train of the Almighty. You don't have to ride the train. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. It's your choice, right? That's what separates humans from animals. When it's certain times of the year, birds fly south for the winter. Certain seasons, salmon go opposite of the water. They just do it, right? Humans, do whatever you choose, okay? But if you want to walk, if you want to live, if you want to get out of your pit, if you want to get out of your hellhole or whatever you got going on in life, like Yah can pull you out, Yah can bring you out, and you don't have to be there. But if you want to be there, or if you're pleasurable there, then ain't nothing we can do for you. So you have to want to embrace all of Him, because He wants to embrace all of you, and that's to everybody. That's to all of the creatures that Yah has made. But with that being said, today our title or our topic is against all odds. Okay, staying Echad. Staying Echad, for those who may not be familiar with the phrase or the word Echad in Hebrew, it means one, to be one. So being one, staying Echad in freedom, captivity, wealth, poverty, unified, or solitaire. So against all odds, can you stay one with Yah? Whether you're in poverty, whether you're free, poverty, whether you got money in your pocket or you ain't got a dollar to your name, right? You're in a big group or you're solo. Okay? So that is what we're on today. Yeah, I know, I heard you. Okay. Let's look at 1 Samuel. 1 Shmuel. 1 Samuel, verse 15, chapter 15, verse 22. 1 Samuel, against all odds. We're going to find out that regardless of the situation, we are required to participate. Regardless of the situation, regardless of your environment, regardless of whatever's going on, Yah demands that His people serve Him.
Amen.
Period. Okay. So 1 Samuel 15 and 22. And Samuel said, "Hath the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices, as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, He hath also rejected thee from being a king." Okay? So, obedience, according to this, is more important or better than sacrifice. Okay? Obedience is better than sacrifice. So what we get from that is that because there was a lack of obedience, there was loss of kingship. Okay? lack of obedience led to a loss of kingship. So if that happens to Saul, who has a high position, he is the king of Israel, he was the first king. If that happens to him, then what about me? What do I lose if I don't obey? If there's lack of obedience, what do I lose? Because clearly, Yah is going to judge fairly and righteously, and not, that's so-and-so little boy, or that's so-and-so daughter, or that's so-and-so cousin. He's not going to be like that. So lack of obedience led to Shaul or Saul's loss of kingship. Let's turn to 1 Peter. Because we do have something to lose, and we do have a high standard. People like to quote and say this verse. There are stipulations that comes with it. 1 Peter 2 and 9. Or Kephas. Kephas. 1 Peter, 2nd chapter, verse 9. And it says, "But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." So to be a chosen generation, a royal priesthood. Okay, a royal priesthood. So the way you're attired, the way you're dressed, you're not dressed with the regular turban on your head. Okay? You got the crown on your forehead. You got royal garbs on. So I want to dress like a king. I want to eat like a king. I want to give orders like a king. But I don't want to live like a king. I don't want the responsibilities of a king. I don't want that on my back. That's too much. I don't want to do all that. I'm going to stay neutral on that. That's how it goes. So there's a certain requirement of obedience that we all got to give. And where that obedience is so important to Yah that it's more important than sacrifices. Hebrews 10. Hebrews 10. Hebrews 10th chapter. Will be in verse 28. Hebrews 10 and 28. "He that despised Moses' law died without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. Of how much more sore punishment, suppose ye, shall he be thought worthy, who hath trodden under foot the Son of God, and hath counted the blood of the covenant, wherewith he was sanctified, an unholy thing, and hath done despite unto the Spirit of grace? For we know him that hath said, Vengeance belongeth unto me, I will recompense, saith the Lord. And again the Lord shall judge his people." It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living Elohim. So the writer stresses out to us that how much more of a sore punishment should be thought worthy who hath trodden under the foot the Son of God, and hath counted the blood of the covenant. So now it's one thing for what Saul did, but now we're looking at us. In one aspect, Peter is saying, "Oh man, royal priesthood, called out and peculiar." And that sounds great, but on the other aspect is that if we're not obedient, there is such a punishment coming. If we're not obedient, the standard is so high. It is extremely high, because Mashiach has came and he's given and he's made a way, and then we accepted the way. We say, yeah, I want to go that way. Yeah, I give myself over to this way. So the book is telling us that how it was that if people that had an issue with Moshe's law died under 2 or 3 witnesses, they're like, hey, how much more worse of a punishment will be? So it's one thing for Yahshua to say, hey, I'm coming back with my reward. But he also coming back with the belt. Vengeance belongs unto him. Well, where is he going to judge first? He's not going to judge nations first. He's not going to judge these other places. He's like, where are my people at? I need to go check on them first. So obey, back in 1 Samuel. Obey in 1 Samuel. Anybody got an idea what that would mean in Hebrew? It was 1 Samuel 15:22. Let's turn back to that. 1 Samuel 15:22. What would obey be in Hebrew?
Shema.
Oh, sure? Somebody screamed out Shema.
That's one of them.
Okay. You could be right. I just could be messing with you. Okay. In Hebrew, obey means Shema. In Hebrew, obey means Shema in 1 Samuel 15:22. Okay? That's the problem, right? Got a little picture, got a little meme going. Shema, hear, listen, obey. Shema or Hebrew. And here we go. Excuse me, come again. So you can never get around the Shema Yisrael. You can never get away from that. It's not just hearing, but to obey. Obey. I heard something, and then I had an action afterwards. It wasn't that just my ears listened, all right? But I heard something, and I went and did. Okay? Somebody needed, I don't know, some tissue in the bathroom. I heard them, and I got up, and I went and got some tissue for them. Right? I heard, and I did some kind of action afterwards. All right? I did some kind of actions afterwards. Let's turn to Hebrews 5th chapter. Hebrews 5th chapter. Hebrews 5 and verse 8. Though he were a son, yet learned he obedience by the things which he suffered. So Yahshua learned things through obedience by his suffering.
Amen. Come on here.
So what about us? I don't like it hard. I don't like it rough. That's too personal. That's too close. Don't mess with my mama. Don't mess with my babies. Don't mess with my funds, with my money. Don't mess with my marriage. So all these things that is supposed to be a teacher for us if you obey through these hard times. That doesn't mean duck tail and run.
Amen.
Transform to an ostrich and head to the ground. Butt in the air. 1 Peter 1 and 2. 1 Peter. First Peter, first Capus. Guess that'd be what, Olive? I got to figure out what one. Well, probably wouldn't be Olive. Okay, if it's one, could be. Yeah, they probably do got it backwards in English. Got everything else backwards in English. Probably got that backwards too. 1 Peter 1 and 2. Elect according to the foreknowledge of God the Father through sanctification of the Spirit unto obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Yahshua HaMashiach, grace unto you and peace be multiplied. Everybody has a requirement of obedience. It's just there's no getting around the obedience that we got to maintain, right? To maintain, to keep something consistent, right? To keep something consistent. James, first chapter. Right, that's not always easy being consistent, is it? Well, I guess that's just me then. Right. It ain't always being consistent, being solid every day. So we just say super straight. I'm super straight every day. James, first chapter, verse 19, and it reads, Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, for the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. Wherefore, lay apart all filthiness and superfluity of naughtiness, and receive with meekness the engrafted word, which is able to save your souls. But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. If any man be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass, where he behold himself and goeth his way, and straightway forget what manner of man he was. But whoso looketh to the perfect law of liberty, and continueth therein, and staying consistent, he, being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed. Okay? Right, so we have to stay consistent. In the Psalms 1. Somebody give me Psalms 1:1, please. Somebody give me Psalms 1:1. Psalms 1:1.
Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of the sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful.
Well, keep on reading.
But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night.
Keep on reading.
And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Amen.
Now, I ain't smart as a man, but I know that man is a doer of the work. This man shall be blessed in his deed. That's the consistency of the scriptures. Right? We just got to keep up with the word, right? Amen. We got to keep up with the word. Word ain't got to keep up with us. We got to keep up with the word. Exodus 24:7. Exodus 24:7. Exodus 24:7. And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people, and they said, all that the Lord hath said we will do, and be obedient. Amen. So we will Shema. We'll say, excuse me, come again. Yeah. To obey. I got to be a good hearer. But hearing is a twofold. It's me receiving information and then reacting from the information that I have received. Amen. Okay. Sometimes with that phrase, yeah, I heard what you said, brother. I'm just going to sit on it.
Okay.
Well, that's what chickens do. That's what birds do. That's what an ostrich mama do. Sit on her egg. Get up off that egg. What was obedience is better than what?
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice. So sacrifice, zebach. So and it was what 1 Samuel. It was obedience is better than sacrifice. So the sacrifice, the zebach or the zevach, the action, all right, of sacrificing flesh of animal, right? So this is something that used to partake, the actual action of the sacrifice. So for us, 21st century, how we are today, where we live today, our relationship, the covenant that we're in, that there are what? There are what? Changes in old ways, right? Changes in thinking, okay? Even sacrifice of what? Time. Sacrifice of time.
Are you putting anything in?
Sacrifice of time. So it should be hard. You should feel like I don't have any time. Right? So we have to find ourselves making time, sacrificing things, changes in things, old ways, old thinking. These are things that we do. Let's see. Since we're talking about thinking on things, where's that passage at? Think on these things. Think on good thoughts. Where's that? Is that Philippians?
Meditate on it day and night.
Just a second. Think on these things. Think on these things. Philippians. Yeah, Philippians 4:8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. Those things which ye have both learned and received and heard, Shema, right? And seen in me, you do. And the Elohim of Shalom shall be with you. All right, so to think on these things and to react on these things. Okay, so when we get to looking at the sacrifice, so the sacrifice is not just because obedience is better than sacrifice. It doesn't mean people try to run off and say, well, you know, see, you ain't got to sacrifice nothing. Just believe and just get in there, and then that's all you got to do. That's not necessarily true, right? Sacrifice is secondary when it comes to obedience. Okay. Sacrifice is secondary, but you know what else sacrifice is? It's also necessary.
Amen.
Right? So sacrifice is extremely necessary. Right? You don't throw it, you don't flush it, you know, some old tissue and throw it in the toilet and flush it. That's not how it works. Right? The obedience is very primary. Okay. It's a starter. 1 + 1 is always 2. Amen. I'm in advanced calculus now. I'm in trigonometry. Is that a class? I'm in geometry now. 1 + 1 will still be 2.
Amen.
Okay? So the sacrifice of the things that we need to sacrifice for, very necessary. Very necessary. Okay? Let's turn to Romans 12. Romans 12. Start saying sacrifice, man. That sacrificial system is done away with. The blood of the bulls, the bloods and goats. Calm down, man. Calm down. It's not where we going. It's not where we going. We do have to make some. We do have to sacrifice. This will get me. See, this is what I'm saying. You gotta break away from the system. If I want something, if I'm just speaking general things in life, secularly, if I want to achieve something, I gotta do what? Sacrifice for it. I gotta sacrifice money for this. I gotta sacrifice time for that. I gotta, so-and-so spent so many hours working on this. So-and-so spent so many hours studying this. So-and-so worked so many hours to achieve this. But when it comes to Yah and the things of Elohim, the things that are of true importance, all you ain't got to sacrifice nothing. It's done for you. Who's duping you? Who put that in your drink and you believe that? Romans 12, 1 and 3. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you are present your bodies, you do present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is good and acceptable and the perfect will of Elohim. So a part of our reasonable services in this walk that we're walking in Yeshua HaMashiach is to prove the things that we do are good and acceptable.
Amen. That's good stuff.
That's what the book said. For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as Elohim has dealt every man a measure of faith. He done dove it out. He gave everybody a measure of faith. Everybody. So it's the bare minimum to present our bodies as a living sacrifice. Why? Because I just read that I'm a royal priest. Man, I like claiming that. I like the kingly stuff, right? But I don't want to lose it. Like, I don't want to be like Saul. But then again, it's in the new covenant. And that stuff don't really matter no more. Just float around and be free. Just be free willy. Free willy. Let them out of SeaWorld. Just let them out. Man, please. 2 Kings, 17th chapter. 2 Kings, 17th chapter. Second Kings 17. Let's start with 36. But the Lord who brought you up out of the land of Egypt, with great power and a stretched out arm.
Amen.
Him shall you fear, and him shall you worship, and him shall you do sacrifice. Right, so this is why we just read it, Romans 12:1-3. This is the most minimal thing, the reasonable thing to do is to present your body a certain way. Things that you do prove that it is good to Elohim. Prove it. Prove it. Right? It just amazes me how there are so many still stipulations on the Torah, on the word, but I know that the word is living. It's a living word. The word became flesh, the word lived. Then the word departs and says, it's necessary that I go. Don't y'all leave Jerusalem, because something that my Father promised is coming. And then when this thing comes and it becomes joined with you, then now I'm going to bring things back to your mind. So if I'm living in 2018, how in the world can somebody get information today about something that was so far ago? Well, there's only one Spirit. There's only one Ruach sent from Yah. So that's why you are warned to try the spirits. Verse 37. And the statutes and the ordinances and the law and the commandment that he wrote for you, you shall observe to do evermore, and you shall not fear other gods. And the covenant that I have made with you, you shall not forget, neither shall you fear other gods, but the Lord your God shall you fear, and he shall deliver you out of the hand of all your enemies.
Amen.
So it's Yah's will to deliver the people out.
Amen.
Whether it's obviously Egypt, it's his will. So we're going to transition here. We're going to look at the nation of Israel. We're going to look at Israel and from freedom to captivity. Okay, so technically they became a nation when they came out of Egypt. They crossed the waters. The mixed mud, they all became one. So Yah set a certain standard. Okay, serve me, fear me, my law, my statutes, my commandments, these things. So whether or not you're in Israel and everything's good, or you're scattered abroad and everything's bad, regardless, this is what you keep, this is what you observe to.
Amen. Okay?
So there was the redemption from Egypt, right? There was the redemption from Egypt. We just kind of generalize a lot of timeline, and I spent a lot of extra time on that. Then we had Moshe, under the rule of Moshe or Moses and Yehoshua. So they was in the wilderness. Then they got to the border going into Canaan. And then Moshe passes away. He gives up the spirit, or gives up the spirit. And before that, things are transformed over to Yehoshua or Joshua. Then they go over and cross the water. And they're under Yehoshua's lead, and everything's good, right? Everything's good. So last time they've been in captivity was coming out of Egypt, right? And not the whole time. The whole time they was in Egypt, they were not in captivity. There was a lot of good time. There was probably more good time than bad time. Okay. Then we have the era of the judges, and in the era of the judges, we had times there would be Midianite oppression, or and then they would break free. They'd be delivered, and something would happen. They go back into captivity, and kind of going back and forth, back and forth. Then after that, we had our monarchy rule. Monarchy rule, right? Saul, David, Solomon. Right? There's wars, but there's no captivity. There's no captivity where somebody else is over on top of you. There's a new standard, new guidelines, new way of life. And in the midst of all that, I still got to keep the Torah. That has not happened yet. Okay. Then we have our succession of the Northern Kingdom, kind of like how America had a civil war, and South Carolina and different states of order succeeded from the actual country. So we had a civil war, had a succession, the Northern Kingdom, the 10 tribes. Okay. Then we had Assyrian captivity. We had the northern tribes, the 10 tribes, taken, carried off into captivity, and there are a new set of guidelines and rules to follow. And obviously before that, Yah said, hey, y'all turn back, y'all turn back, y'all turn back, y'all turn back. Okay? We had the Babylonian captivity, primarily the southern kingdom of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. We have, we're going to talk about today, the Medo-Persian what we know as the Persian captivity. After that, we had, we won't get this, we had Grecian captivity, okay? Greeks after the Medes and the Persians era. We had Roman captivity, okay? The time when we get to our New Testament, we get to the time of Mashiach. Rome is high in power, all right? Then we have post-Rome, we have the Arab-Islam captivity, what we talked about a whole month, that we had the Saharan Desert and the Indian Ocean. We had things going on. So, and then obviously, to our latter times, we had what? European Christianity, right? So where we have the other way, Atlantic Ocean, Western Hemisphere. So we have all these different things that have fell upon Israel, or fell upon the tribes in different eras, okay? And bottom line, Yah expects us to obey His laws, regardless of our surroundings. Bottom line, if the Shabbat is a sign of a covenant,
Amen.
I don't care what country you're in. I don't care if you're in Shanghai, Timbuktu. I don't care if you're in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I don't care if you're all the way in the bottom corner of Chile. I don't care if you live in Smyrna in Carroll County. You best to keep this standard. Let's turn to Daniel 3rd chapter. Daniel 3rd chapter. And we just briefly wanted to look at those to kind of paint a picture where we're going today. Then we and every time we paint a picture or we look at a picture, so you gotta treat it. You gotta treat this scripture like a mirror. It's one thing to treat the scripture like a mirror when it's something good. Oh, I'm an Israelite. Oh, I'm a this. Oh, I'm a that. Oh, I'm a royal priest. Oh, I'm done. Oh, all these blessings. Who can't do that? Who can't do that? We gotta look at this thing and get an understanding that when there is pressure, when there is downtime, when it is bad, will I still serve?
Amen.
Yes or no? That's all he want to know. That's what he really want to know. Veer off, but not too far. I did not get to go to a lot of games. Just had a unique year. Didn't get to go see a lot of my clients, my kids play. And the ones I did, some of them didn't play too good. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't play good. Don't worry, I didn't care about that. I don't care about stats and numbers. Where's the effort?
Amen. Come on.
There was a loose ball. Did you dive for it? You were 0 for 10. Did you go for the loose ball? When you come out the game, are you looking like a little baby, pouting, like you got a stinky diaper? Or are you still coachable? You still a good teammate? And that's how Yah is. He's like, yeah, I know. You got a lot of bills. You got a lot of stuff going on over here, stuff going on. But will you serve me still? I wonder if I run somebody who needs some meat in this season, will you feed them? You have enough faith in you. Because I put a measure of faith in you. We just read it in the book. I wonder if he's going to use it. Let's watch and see. Let's see what Jeremy do. Nah, he was too much in his feelings today.
Lord help.
He wasn't. He didn't want to participate today. He wasn't a player. He wasn't a tough guy today. He's a softie today. Daniel 3 in verse 14. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, It is true, O Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, one bad Negro, do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up. So here we have Babylonian captivity. Okay? We have Babylonian captivity. And the way your laws and rules used to be, they're no more. New laws, new rules, new standard. You're going to worship the golden image which I've set up? Or you're going to fall? All I got to do is bow. Just bow, man. No big deal. Save your life, man. What about your family? Verse 15, Now if you be ready, that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, all kinds of music, you fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, but if you worship not, you should be cast the same hour into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands?
Come on.
Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. So Nebuchadnezzar said, like, wait a minute. So when the music play, you ain't gonna bow, and I'm telling you, I'm going to cook you. And what you're telling me is that your God can save you, or your God might not save you, but you're still not going to bow to this golden. Is that what you're telling me?
Preach.
I say, yeah. That's what I'm saying, boss. That's exactly what I'm saying. Verse 19. Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, in the form of his vision. He was so mad. You can see it. You ever see people get so mad, you see it in their face. Say in their face. I got a partner I went to school with. He gets so mad, he turned Chinese man. I ain't gonna say his name. He knows if you ever see this, and he be watching the video, he know what I'm talking about. He gets so mad, his eyes be Chinese. He gets so mad, eyes be like this. Another guy nose gets so wide, gets so mad, nose gets so wide. That's what I'm talking about. People get so mad, their face just changed. What's changed? You got. Sometimes I get mad. I start biting my lip. Was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 17 times more than it was wont be heated. So he said, I'm going to make this mud hot. I'm going to prove a point with y'all. And he commanded the most mighty men that was his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them to the burning fires. Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen, and their hats, their other garments, and were cast in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because of the king's commandment was urgent and the furnace exceeding hot, the flame of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. How'd you like to be them guys? I was just doing what I was supposed to do. Man, he had that thing so hot it burned me. I was supposed to have been off today. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. The Nebuchadnezzar, the king, was astonished and rose up in haste and spake and said to his counselors, did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, true, O king. He answered and said, lo, I see 4 men loose, walking around, hanging out, high fives, dancing, jigging, praising Yah, and the fire, and they're not hurt. And the form of the fourth is like the son of Elohim. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fires and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, one bad Negro, ye servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth in the midst of the fire.
Thank you.
The princes, the governors, the captains, the king's council be gathered together, saw these men upon whose body the fire had no power, nor was no hair, nor their heads singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. Is that you? Is that you? So see, that happened in real time, but Mashiach kind of warned us about something. Matthew 10. Matthew 10. Gave us a little warning. Matthew 10, verse 17, and it reads, but beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues. You shall be brought before governors and kings for my sake, like them, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles. But when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what you shall speak, for it shall be given you in that same hour which you shall speak. For it is not ye that shall speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you. Will we serve? Good, bad, broke, poor, hungry, thirsty, solo, I'm by myself, I'm with a family, I'm not with a family, I'm whatever. Will you serve? Okay, against all odds. We're going to read something here, and I've said this, that if I bring something out of another book, the Apocrypha or something like that, I want to make sure that it lines up with what things we already know. So we just looked at an example of the Babylonian captivity, we're going to look at an example of the Assyrian captivity of the 10 northern tribes. Okay, we're going to look at something here because what we're seeing is that Yah doesn't care where you are. This covenant, these words that I spoke when you said I will do, or you're going to do this. So let's get me to Persian, Roman, Abba, European, Yah expects. Okay, Tobit. If I'm saying this right. But this is a story of a man. What we'll read, the book of the words of Tobit, son of Tobiel, the son of Aniel, the son of Adul, the son of Gabriel, the seed of Azel, of the tribe of Naphtali. So Naphtali is of the northern kingdom. Okay, who in the time of Enemessar, okay, so this is what was the king of the Assyrians. Okay, was led captive out of this, which is at the right hand of that city, which is properly called Naphtali in Galilee. So we have the prophecies in Isaiah about how the area of Galilee was touched first and had light had to shine there first. So when Mashiach begins his teaching and when he starts shining light, he shines light in the Galilee, okay, above Asher, which also know one of the tribes. I, Tobit, have walked all the days of my life in the ways of truth and justice. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I thought all y'all was bad. I thought y'all liked doing all that Baal stuff and had all them extra cows and didn't want to come to Jerusalem north. So there were people who were in the midst of the 10 tribes who were all the days of my life in the ways of truth and justice. And I did many alms deeds to my brethren and my nation who came with me to Nineveh, into the land of the Assyrians. And when I was in my own country, in the land of Israel, being but young, all the tribe of Naphtali, my father, fell from the house of Jerusalem. Okay, that lines up. Which was chosen out of all the tribes of Israel. That lines up. That all the tribes should sacrifice there, where the temple of the habitation of the Most High was consecrated and built for all ages. Now all the tribes which together revolted, and the house of my father, Naphtali, sacrificed to the heifer Baal. So he was like, yeah, man, my daddy got down with that Baal stuff. Man, I was a young boy. I wasn't like that. So I used to want to go. I used to go to the feast. I used to want to go to the feast. I'm carried off in captivity. I ain't changed a lick. I've not changed a lick.
Amen.
Picking up in verse 6. But I alone went off into Jerusalem at the feast. So
Went by yourself. Okay.
So I'm gonna make a way. I was talking to somebody a couple weeks ago. You can do whatever you want to do. If you can find a way to do this, you can sure find a way to do this.
Amen.
It's just a choice. It's what I prefer.
Amen.
I put my energy, my time, my mind, my resources.
Preach.
I went off to the Jerusalem at the feast as it was ordained to all the people of Israel by an everlasting decree, having the first fruits and tenths of increase. So we're talking about his tithe. Once again, an agrarian society. I get paid when it's harvest time. We're not agrarian society. I get paid on a 2-week or on the 15th or the 20th, or for me, whenever I pay myself, that is what is called, Kelly be like, yeah, here, pay yourself. That was called the increase. So he says, when we get through with our cycle, I have my tenth of my increase, which was that first shorn, and them gave I at the altar to the priests of the children of Aaron. The first 10th part of all increase I gave to the sons of Aaron who ministered at Jerusalem. Another 10th, so a second 10th. See, but you know, if I was trying to keep the word, I wouldn't have this in the scripture neither. I wouldn't have it in the scripture neither. Another 10th part I sold away and went and spent it every year in Jerusalem. Oh, for the fall.
Oh, wow.
Because the fall is the end of the year when you come out of Sukkot, because that's the end of the harvest cycle. But it's also the beginning of a civil cycle. So Yah has 2 timelines in his timeline. Oh, okay. I got you. And the third, okay. Because I just copied this out the book. And the third tithe I gave to them who was meat, as Deborah my father's mother had commanded, because I was left an orphan by my father. I gave to the poor. Okay, I got you. I got you, family. I see you, brother. Furthermore, when I was become of age of a man, I married Anna of my own kindred, and I beget of her Tobias. Okay, a son. So, I stuck to the law, stuck to the Torah. These things were customary. I married somebody of my own tribe, of Naphtali. Okay, and we were carried away captives to Nineveh. Once again, I think we talked about this going into the Israelites who go into Africa. The poor stay behind because the poor can't move. If North Korea or Russia or somebody was coming in here, some of us could move. Just jump up and just. Some of us can move and only move so far because I don't have any. I'm out of funds. So some people were able to move and some were not. Some were poor. So some were poor. Some people could just jump up and go. Right? So the more money I got, the farther I can get away. That's why Yah was so mad when he was chasing them down the Nile. And folks all the way down, almost in Nubia, going down the Nile. But they had the funds to do it. When we were carried away captives to Nineveh, all my brethren and those that were of my kindred did eat the bread of the Gentiles. But I kept myself from eating because I remembered Yah with all my heart. And the Most High gave me grace and favor before Enemessar. I can't think of it. I can't think of what's the. Anyway, never mind. And the Most High gave me grace and favor before Enemessar, from the king of Assyria, so that I was his purveyor. It's always amazing how Daniel and we'll look at Esther here and different people where if you hang on.
Yeah.
Not only will I preserve you, but I'll elevate you among them. And he's just showing his power. He's showing how powerful he is. Right. Folks is getting mad, like, man, why you got this Hebrew doing this and this, so-and-so doing this? Like, man, well, y'all put something on them. Right. So who gonna stop them? But ain't that what Yeshua says? That man, can't nobody be in my Father's hand and snatch them out. So the best thing is being Yah's hand.
Amen.
I went into Media and left in trust with Gabriel, the brother of Gabrias, the rage of the city of Media, 10 talents of silver. Now when Adamaster was dead, Sennacherib, his son, reigned in his stead. Sennacherib was cold, scrapping. Whose estate was troubled that I could not go into Media. And in the time of Enemessar, I gave many alms to my brethren and gave my bread to the hungry, my clothes to the naked. And if I saw any of my nation dead or cast about the walls of Nineveh, I buried them. So just customary, very customary. Torah, once again, Torah that's why when we talked about Olawale Ikwanu, and he's like, hey man, these things are just part of what I was taught to do. Igbo people, what I was just taught to do. And if the king Sennacherib had slain any when he was come and fled from Judea, I buried them privily, for in his wrath he killed many, but the bodies were not found when they were sought for of the king. So he was burying the brethren. He was giving them a proper burial, right? And he's putting his life on the line because there are a lot of Israelites who are being killed. Okay. Verse 19. And when one of the Ninevites went and complained of me to the king that I buried them and hid myself, understanding that I was sought for to be put to death, I withdrew myself for fear. Then all my goods were forcibly taken away, neither was there anything left me beside my wife Anna and my son Tobias. And there passed not 50 days before two of his sons killed him, and they fled into the mountains of Ararat, and Sarcodius his son reigned in his stead. This is in, we'll find this in 2 Kings, where his sons did kill him. Sennacherib, yeah. So Sennacherib's sons plot on him. We will find that in 2 Kings, and also in Assyrian history. So Sarcodius, his son, reigned in his stead, who appointed over his father's accounts and over all his affairs. Acharius, my brother's Aniel's son, and Acaciarchus, entreating for me, I returned to Nineveh. Now Acaciarchus was cupbearer and keeper of the signet, and steward and overseer of the accounts. And Sarcodius appointed him next unto him, and he was my brother's son. So we're looking at just his testimony during Assyrian captivity. Okay, and that's real. You know, and regardless of my surroundings, I'm going to stick to the law or to the ways of my God. I'm not going to fold. I'm not going to fold 10. So he was doing it. He's talking about, man, he dodging death. So Medo-Persian rule. Okay, Medo-Persian rule. So the Medes and the Persians. It's called Medo-Persian because as their empire was beginning to grow, it was two different people groups mixed together. The Medes were the first kings, but once you get about to Cyrus the first, they became all the Persian kings that we're kind of familiar with that we see in our scripture. So let's turn to Daniel 11:2. If you remember, during the Hanukkah, we talked about this section. We kind of looked at those three kings that the Yah the angel had gave Daniel an understanding or a vision about those three kings. Let's turn to Daniel 11. And then verse 1, starting 1. Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now I will show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the fourth shall be far richer than they all, and by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up against all the realm of Grecia. Okay. Oops, sorry. My bad. So turn to Esther. Turn to Esther. Okay, so we're talking about the Persian. Because we're officially out of Purim. But just because you're out of Purim, don't mean that Haman and the Agagites and the Amalek still ain't trying to hunt you down. Because the goal is to keep you from getting into the Aviv. Amen. Right, that's the goal of the other one, is to keep you from getting to the Aviv, right? The Adar, which Yah did not name the months except for Aviv. But the 12th month, so it's it's to keep you from crossing the finish line and starting anew. Right? So that's how good Yah is with his cycle. He wants you to start anew. So in Esther now 1 and 1, we just read. Did I read Daniel 11, 1 and 2? Yes. Okay, so now we're in Esther 1. Esther 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus that Ahasuerus was reigned from India even into Ethiopia, into 127 provinces. That in those days, when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in the Shushan, the palace, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all the princes and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and the princes of the provinces being before him. When he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty, many days, even 180 days. So they was getting down. All right. 180 days is 180 days or 6 months. So they had a party. But if you have 127 provinces from India all the way to Ethiopia. So Cambyses the first or the second is the one who discovered the Yahudim down in Elephantine Island. Okay, so it's going. So you're talking about a lot of territory, and there are a lot of people coming to hang out with them for different to have a big party, right? To all these provinces, all these royal nobles, they partied. They had a blast. And what was written in the prophecy in Daniel was that one of these kings is going to be super buku rich, and start kicking up dust against the Grecians. Okay, so we're looking at Xerxes or Ahasuerus as that guy. Just a quick little information on Persia. The way Persia was able to expand its territory is that some people, like the Assyrians, use might. I'm a scare you, I'm a punk you, and then I'm a bring you into the fold. Okay, and that was not necessarily a Persian way. Can you hand me that black little son? Got to bring down my notes a lot better, but I'm probably going to say it, not say it right. Thanks, son. But the Persians were their tactic. They had a massive military, okay? And the Persians would negotiate first. Second is to torture a mayor, to torture someone. And then third is to burn down the village, okay? The Assyrians, they would go backwards. I'm going to burn down the village. I'm going to torture one of your leaders, all right? And then we'll negotiate. So the Persians went different. The Persians would pretty much say, look, that's my army back there. And you're going to be a part of our province. You're going to pay us some tribute. And honestly, you just kind of keep doing what you're doing. You ain't got to change your religion. You don't have to change your business. But you guys are really good in boats. So when we need your navy, we're going to use your navy. Okay? You guys are real good in agriculture. When we need food for our army, you're giving us food. Real simple. And some people say, no, man, kick rocks. Okay, who's the mayor? He is. So you know what you're going to find? You're going to find my head on a stake in front of the city. Or the Persian would do, this is stuff recorded in history, or they would take the leader, the governor, the mayor, put him in a coffin, pour honey all over him, bury him halfway in the ground, and let all the fire ants eat him up slowly. They would do that to one, just to kind of send a message, and then everybody's like, okay, cool, yeah, whatever y'all want. But the Persians would not force their way on you. That's not what they would do. They would not force their way on you. Okay, so we're going to look here in the Bible, and that's what makes this Esther story so. That was not typical Persian way, right? They go wine and dine you and get you drunk and happy and have parties and all that kind of stuff, which all the adults understand what's going on. All right. Let's look at Esther 2, Esther's second chapter, in verse 5. Okay, now in the Shushan, the palace, there was a certain Jew, a Yehudi, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Yair, the son of Shemel, the son of Kish, a Benjaminite. Okay, now Herodotus does a great little information on Kish and Cush. Kish and Cush, and then how these are very synonymous. So, but I'm not, I know, man, Black History Month's over, man. Stop talking about that stuff. No, it's not. We're just going to talk history when it's time to talk history. But anyway, verse 6, who had been carried away captive from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. He brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter. So we've seen this kind of before with someone's brother, and then they have their wife or the sister-in-law, and then the brother dies, and someone takes this to keep this. So that same Hebraic custom is also with, if something happens to the parents and you got the child there, then the next of kin will come in and be like a father, like a surrogate father. So this is what's going on here. Okay. And then in verse 10, Esther had not shown her people nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it. Okay. So we have Mordecai charging. He charged her up. He charged up Esther. Okay, and charged means zavah, which is a child root. Okay, zavah, and it means to command, charge, give orders, lay charge. So the action to zavah, to give a charge, to give a command. Do not reveal yourself. Do not let them know you're of the Judean kingdom and of the tribe of Benjamin. Don't let them know. You must keep that. He charged her up. So we see this is a root word, and a word that's built from this word we all heard before. It's mitzvah. Right? When's the first time mitzvah is used? Genesis 26 and 5. What's going on there? Can somebody get that for me right quick? Genesis 26 and 5. The first time mitzvah is used in our Tanakh. Genesis 26 and 5.